Letter 8. I have been adopted by a Turkish family. To Saadat Subashi, dear Lady Mary, there is one thing you learn very quickly in Turkey. The country is not run by the politicians of government, the turbines of business, or by the muftis on pulpits high. No, Turkey is run by the family. You will not encounter another society where the family bond is so strong and so cohesive. The unity of the family is a symbol of what is best in any society, no matter where it is on the globe. But in Turkey, the bonds of family structure are more solid than most, with each family run as a mini corporation. Family values are a way of life, not just a political or religious discourse for politicians, as it appears often to be in my country, where families are freer and looser. You see, Lady Mary, I have known both types of family structures. I come from a good, solid Midwestern Christian family. Although both my parents were orphans, my numerous aunts and uncles and cousins created a joyous and bonded group. Every Sunday after church, we were at least a dozen around one of our tables for the big Sunday meal. Yet I have many friends who are emotionally distant from their families. Lady Mary, you defied your father to run away and elope with Wortley. I left my family at a very young age to live abroad. We both grew up in cultures where children were encouraged to be independent at an early age. I now live in a city that is 1,000 miles away from my nearest relative. So perhaps in some ways it is difficult for us to understand the cement-hard devotion that bonds Turkish families. I have had the good fortune to be adopted by several Turkish families, which has allowed me to make some important comparisons between Turkish and Western family circles. You never were fortunate enough to experience this, Lady Mary. You were received with great ceremony into the courts and the homes of sultans, harems, and ambassadors. Yet you never sat around the breakfast table with a Turkish family. You never joined in their circle to sip tea and share stories. And you never got to hold their babies on your lap. You missed a great part of Turkey in this way. In many aspects, I received the same level of ceremony and honor in a small one-room home as you were shown in the salons of Topkapi. All the attention Turkish families shower on you can be overwhelming at times, but it is something quite marvelous. Why is the bond of family so firm in Turkey? I suppose it comes from their strong sense of the ulus, the tribal confederation inherited from their Turkic ancestors. The ulus is a societal organization that determined all the functions of the Turkic peoples: administration, structure, function, politics, transhumance, and migration patterns, the military, succession, and power. It is what allowed them to successfully migrate into Anatolia, the basis of modern Turkey. Today's ulus takes the form of the individual family, and its leaders take the form of the Turkish father, otherwise known as Baba. The landmarks of life, birth, circumcision, marriage, and death are all organized as in the ulus of yore and are marked with elaborate and extensive ceremonies. The modern Turkish family, run by the father, is deeply rooted in the ulus tradition. The absolute veneration for parents seen in Turkey is as sacred as any law of the Quran. The family father, or Baba, is accorded enormous respect and deference. Next in the power line is Abi, the oldest boy, who serves as deputy father. This child may have a name, but he is never called it by his brothers and sisters. He is always known by his title, Abi. There are other names for various family members, depending on if you fall on the paternal or maternal side of the family. No one is called merely aunt or uncle or brother-in-law here. Every family member is pegged with a precise exact title, defining his exact position in the family. This elaborate terminology of kinship is one of the toughest challenges in learning the Turkish language and culture. There are 4 terms alone for sister-in-law. So you can see, Lady Mary, that this is not an impersonal society. The glue of these families is a very simple one: love and respect. In fact, These two keywords, learned at home, form entire basis for the Turkish culture in the largest sense. All families strive hard to instill moral training in these two basic values: respect for elders and kindness and love for the young. There is much hand-kissing of parents and elder relatives. The ceremonial kiss of an elder's hand, comprised of a bow, kissing the hand, and then bringing it to touch the forehead, is one of the most poignant gestures I have ever witnessed. Turkish families, as in many cultures, strive to provide every opportunity for their children, often taking very elaborate proportions. I am pleased to say that the strongest driving motivation for Turkish parents is to ensure that their children receive a solid education. They will do almost anything to provide this opportunity for them. They work multiple jobs and all hours to earn the money to buy books, knapsacks, costly private tutors for exam preparation, tuition in private schools, and even, the ultimate dream, to send them to America to study. Abi pitches in as well to help his little siblings and considers it an honor to pay for his sister's tutor rather than to buy himself personal items with his spending money. Turks believe very strongly in postgraduate degrees, and families, especially upper-class ones, will send their children abroad to be educated. If a child does not have the capacity or skills to attend the university, his family will ensure that he has every opportunity to set up his own business, and even set out to find him a suitable life partner. The whole village participates in this educational encouragement. Once, when I was visiting a mosque in Bunyan, a man approached me and we had a little chat. He then went over to a group of curious children nearby and said, "See, she is American and she can speak Turkish. What are you doing to become as accomplished? Now scat and go home and do some studying." Turkish families stick together like glue. They call each other numerous times each day on their cell phones just to hear the voice of the beloved family member. They camp out in hospital rooms when one of their own is sick, tending to the patient in many ways overworked nurses cannot, such as monitoring, bathing, and dispensing medicines. This is healthcare with a heart, and they certainly would never understand the concept of support groups or outpatient treatments, as this role in the healing process is assumed by the family. Another happy tradition I enjoy witnessing are circumcision festivals. 2 years after you left Istanbul, Lady Mary, the Sultan in power during your stay, Ahmet III, held what is considered the most opulent festival in Ottoman history. It was a joint circumcision celebration for 4 of his sons. It lasted 15 days and comprised parades, fireworks, boat races, musicians, dancers, and floats. What a pity you could not have been there to see them. Although today there are elaborate circumcision galas held in fancy hotels, the ceremonies I enjoy are the modest ones, held in the family circle. Every boy at about the age of 8 undergoes this rite of passage, and the family makes it an event that the child will never forget, dressing him in a traditional fancy costume and showering him with sweets and gifts. If a family is too poor to insure one for their son, either a local wealthy man or the city itself will pay for the ceremony. Summer Sundays are full of honking cars and visits of local holy spots by gaily costumed boys and their families en route to the ceremony itself. Never are the bonds of the Turkish family more apparent than at the breakfast table. You provide a description in one of your letters of dining with the Sultana, but I can assure you that breakfasts in Turkey are celebrated with equal attention and ceremony. Breakfasts in Turkey set the tone for the day. All the family is there, all the love is there, and each olive is a promise of the goodness for the day to come and the joy to unfold once the table is left. No one eats alone, grabbing a coffee and a piece of toast on the run. No one starts the day without love. No one starts the day without community. The ornate breakfast buffets seen in Turkish hotels are nothing more than an extension of this family custom. Even in the most modest of hotels, in the poorest of regions, breakfasts are presented with the utmost care, attention, and love. Baba may give the orders to the family, but it is the children who are truly the ones in charge. Turks are absolutely besotted with children and allow them every type of indulgence. The first question you are always asked as a woman is, "How many children do you have?" Ottoman female tombstones are decorated with carved flowers, one for each child the woman bore. Trees are planted in villages when a child is born. Turkey is the only country in the world which has a legal holiday for children. Every year on April 23rd, Turkey hosts numerous festivals and activities to honor them and to protect their future, freedom, and well-being. There are kids everywhere in Turkey, a country with 70% of the population under the age of 35. They are generally enchanting, with the big eyes and sweet smiles. They are constantly cuddled, fussed over, kissed, picked up, and bounced. Turkish boys are like playful puppies, with their flat-shaved heads and dirty faces. Turkish girls are like little coy kittens. A Turkish gardener told me once that he chose that profession because he thought that flowers were like children, each one different and beautiful, and needing love and attention, and that he could not think of anything more joyful to do in life. Turkish children on the whole are very well behaved. I have been on 8-hour bus rides with a 3-year-old child behind me and not heard a peep the entire time. They do not fuss in public, but sit quietly with their parents. And they do not need toys or games or gadgets to keep them quiet and entertained. They learn complete self-reliance, one of the greatest of all Turkish traits, at a very early age. You cannot go through one day without seeing a pack of them playing a game of soccer. Just give them an open space and a ball and they are on their way. And this ball can be nothing more than a stone or a ball of rags if need be. I have seen village kids play with a stick, a piece of string, 2 walnut shells, and a stone, devising an imaginary game that kept them diverted for hours. Turkish teenagers generally retain much of the sweetness of children. It is rare to see Turkish youths laughing loudly, making rude jokes, swearing, pushing, shoving, or showing public displays of affection. The word in Turkish for a young person is delikanlı, or crazy-blooded. But my experience with teens in Turkey is that they are a very well-behaved lot. There is, however, one particularly impertinent group, the young teenaged boys who followed you around all day, insisting that they be your guide so that they can improve their English. They can be quite pesky and never take no for an answer. It is usually very hard to refuse this zeal for self-improvement, so I usually cave in and spend a bit of time with them. But it is very tiring and bothersome when it goes on and on. No sooner do you finish with one when another one pops up. Yet it is always harmless. An encounter with some teenaged boys I once had in Istanbul sheds much light onto the Turkish youth and how they are raised by their families. I boarded the tunnel at the bottom to ride up the hill, and there was a group of boisterous teenage boys sitting together in the car, laughing, joking, and playfully pushing each other. The only available seat was in the middle of them. I went to sit down, and my traveling companion said, "No, I'm not going to sit next to those pests." But I went ahead because I was hot and feeling faint, and quite frankly, they just seemed like boys being boys to me, nothing more. And after I sat down, one of the boys spoke out in a low voice to his friends. "Hey, quiet down, will you? Look at that foreign blonde woman sitting next to us. We had better behave lest she get a bad impression of us." Of course, they did not know that I spoke Turkish and could understand their comment or understand how pleased I was to see that those boys knew how to behave in public, and especially in front of a foreign guest. Turks want to make friends more than anything, and the way they do that is by inviting you to become a part of their family. I have been a guest in many Turkish homes, and in each one I felt that I had been adopted into their circle. Perhaps it was for an afternoon, a day, or for a week, but I was always made to feel that I was a part of their lives. Tea, glasses of tea, endless glasses of tea pave the way, always, for this feeling of fraternity. I have spent an afternoon looking at photos with the family of a caretaker of an Amasya dervish monastery. I have spent a day shelling walnuts in the courtyard of a 200-year-old Ottoman home outside of Kastamonu with a farmer and his family. And then at the end of the day, I helped his daughter drive the cows home from the field into the ground floor enclosed yard of the house. I have spent an afternoon with an opium-sniffing grandmother outside of AHBÂR-I, where I was served freshly fried flatbread along with the tea. I have been invited to the home of a museum keeper in Safranbolu, whose wife plucked me fresh figs from the garden for my tea. Upon taking leave, the ritual is always the same. Addresses are exchanged, for they want to be remembered, to exchange letters, gifts, news, and photos, or to be remembered in thoughts and prayers. I have had people cry when I have left. Women have poured water over the doorstep to ensure that my trip will flow smoothly. And I have been offered presents and flowers when I get on buses. My very own family does not shower me with this type of love and attention. Does yours, Lady Mary? I have even been invited to be a part of a Turkish family in New York, when once I was asked at the airport by a Turkish woman, a total stranger, if I would take care of her 16-year-old son on his first flight to Turkey. By far, my closest family in Turkey is the one that has adopted me as their abla, or older sister, the Muhashin İlyas Subashi family of Kayseri. They have baptized me with a Turkish name and treat me with more respect, consideration, and fuss than you had ever received on one of your official diplomatic visits, Lady Mary. I am one of theirs. I am a friend to them. I met the head of the family via a letter, similar to this one. I wrote him to compliment him on the book he wrote on the history of Kayseri. And when he answered me back, we embarked on an epistolary relationship that led me to being received as a guest in his home. It is a home of peace and beauty, sitting high up in the hills outside of Kayseri to catch the cool breezes, with a view over the volcanic peak of Mount Erciyes. It is a home of quietude, with no loud voices, blaring music or televisions. It is the home of an effendi who owns 7,000 books that are kept immaculately in place on his third-floor study. It is a home set in a garden of lush cherry, apple, apricot fruit trees, and vegetable patches bursting with tomatoes and peppers. It is a home of comfortable furniture, airy spaces, much light, and flowers in vases. It is a home of strong women, with his wife and 3 daughters looking over everything and running the home like an efficient, well-oiled factory. It is a home with 30 pairs of shoes at the entry, awaiting every conceivable size of guest. It is a home where neighbors drop in for visits to share tea, coffee, gossip, and news. It is a home where his married daughter has built her own family home next door, and where the son-in-law brings over special food gifts he prepares, from freshly ground spices to a pot of stew big enough to feed the Janissaries. It is a home where original poetry is read in the family circle after dinner, where neighbors feel welcome enough to cut through the garden on their way home. It is immaculate, with not one item left unattended or misplaced, one dish unwashed. It is a home where elaborate meals, notably the famous Kayseri manta, are prepared in a finely appointed kitchen and served on delicate trays with great finesse by the daughters of the house. It is a home where breakfasts of 15 dishes are laid out under a vine-covered pergola in the garden in the freshness of the morning. It is a home finer than any castle in England you could imagine, Lady Mary, or any sultan's palace you visited. It is a home that beats with the heart of a loving family. It is a dream home, and now it is mine to share, thanks to the kindness of a Turkish family who had adopted me as one of theirs. Sincerely yours, Catherine Branning.